Hey fellows, welcome to episode 42. In this episode, we're going to be introducing our first particle effect. We won't have a particle engine, but we will after we build this particle. We will next episode build a particle engine to house it. But we're just going to implement the head bump particle effect. You know, the two flashing dots you can see when, quote, bumps his head against the ceiling or the cave wall ceiling thing. So we've done a lot of these things before, but I'll just talk about what it looks like. You just have two sprites that start out, that move out from a central point, basically the center X of quote, and then the top of his head, or the top of his collision rectangle, and they just move out at a couple of random angles and go some random distances between 4 and 20 game units at about 0.12. Again, like, we're just going to be using these constants, so I won't go into them. But they're also going to be blinking, flashing in and out of visibility. So our flash period's going to be 25 milliseconds, and then after about 600 milliseconds, the particles expire. So yeah, these are located in caret.bitmap, and these are the other constants that we're going to be using. So yeah, a lot of our solution just involves the constants. And then I'll talk about random a little bit. We're just going to use rand from the C library, the ancient rand, which is known to be not so random, and we're going to use modulo with it. And this isn't really good practice if you need real random numbers, or real uniform random, like it's just a really lightweight solution to random. But since we're just making a particle effect, I feel like it really doesn't matter, and we'd be seriously over engineering it if we used anything but rand. So yeah, that's my solution. Let's get started. So let's start by creating a head bump particle class. Side of source, add new item. We'll call it head bump particle .h, and we will do our header guards. All right. So we're going to need a couple of methods. We're going to need an update and a draw. I'll start with draw. It's going to just take in a graphics, struct graphics. We'll also need an update. I'm going to go ahead and make this a bool just to return whether it's expired or not. So this will just be update, taking in an elapsed time. So and then let's make a constructor for this too. Let's just make it head bump particle, taking in a graphics so that we can initialize our sprites, and a center X and center Y from which we are going to radiate outwards. So units game center X and units of game center Y. So we're going to need to store a few of these things. We're going to need a sprite for our sprite. So I'm going to make that a, I guess you can call that a stack variable, but not a pointer. So pound include sprite.h. We're going to need a center X and a center Y. I'll make those const. And the last thing we're gonna need is a timer. So it's a lifetime timer. So I'll just call it timer, whatever. And I'll include timer as well. So there we have a timer, and that's just gonna measure how much time we have to live. All right, so let's go ahead and let's go to our game class before we implement this and kind of figure out how we're going to use it. And I'm going to do something special, very special. I'll give it its own private data temporarily while we're testing this out. So pound include head bump particle and give ourselves a head bump particle at the end. Ooh, I'll do a scoped pointer to a head bump particle. And I'll just call it particle because I don't want to type the whole thing and it's just temporary. So I'll go into game class and reset particle to be a new head bump particle, giving it graphics and giving it a center X and center Y. And I'll just make this the center of the screen. Units tile to game case screen width divided by 2 and screen height divided by 2. Just an arbitrary location to put it. Now we need to update and draw our particle. And I'm going to keep updating the timer, but I'm going to update. Oh, actually, I'll just keep updating everything. It doesn't matter. Hold on. Yeah, I guess it doesn't matter where I update the particles. So I'm going to update it right here. So particle update, giving it elapsed time in milliseconds. And then for drawing, I'm actually not going to draw anything else, just so we can really clearly see what's going on with our head bump particle and not have to strain our eyes to see it. So let's do particle draw, giving it graphics. All right, so I'm going to compile, and I should get like some link errors, but everything else should be fine. How's your guys' day going? I hope it's going really well. I really do. Thanks for watching. You're making my day. And we get link errors. Perfect. Okay. So let's create our head bump particle CC file. Not CSS, CC. Pound include head bump particle.h. And we can go ahead and define our draw, update, and constructor. And we're going to do something really simple for these. Start with head bump particle. This is going to be simple because all we need to do is initialize our center X, center Y, and sprite. And I already told you, oh, and we'll need to do timer too, but I already told you what all the constants are going to be, so we'll just grab those from the slide. So we'll start with center X, get center X, center Y, you get the idea. And then sprite. Gonna get what are the no, what are my options? So graphics, caret, we'll say k source x, k source y, k width, k height. Of course, we gotta we can't just have constants that are not pixel values because those are going to be determined at runtime. So let's convert these because these are going to be units of game. So we'll do game to pixel. And yes, I know we haven't defined these yet. We're going to. Man, you guys are so impatient. I can just hear it. What did I miss? Oh, I haven't defined those yet. Okay, so let's define those. Const units of game, k source x equals y is what? I'm still not defining them. What's wrong with me? Oop, that's k width. And k height. So I think this one was 6 and 6. Actually, no, it was 6 and 6, but I can't remember what these two were. 116 and 54. And we also need to initialize a timer, so const units of milliseconds. Call it k lifetime and 600 milliseconds. So initialize timer with 600 or k lifetime. And then empty body. Sweet. Why do you want... Man, why does it do this to me? It just wants to move everything over. Okay. So now let's implement empty stuff for draw and update. Let's just do head bump particle. Or let's actually draw it. So for our update, we're just going to return not expired, or return not timer dot expired. So as long as we have some lifetime left in us, we are still alive. But that doesn't have any effect yet because we aren't doing anything in game to deal with that. So for drawing, let's do sprite dot draw, giving it graphics and our center X, just to make sure we have the right sprite loaded, I guess. Yeah. How's that? I think we should be happy and see a small sprite in the very center, so I'll build and run. There we go, there's our head bump sprite. So now let's make a particle effect.